So picture this. You're commanding a megaship, right? One of those massive vessels fully loaded with like 2 million barrels of crude oil.
Oh, yeah. Just sitting incredibly low in the water.
Exactly. And you're navigating the Strait of Hormuz, that really narrow waterway separating Oman and Iran.
Right. A major, major choke point.
Yeah. And suddenly your radio crackles. You get this message saying there's a new mandatory toll to pass through the strait, $2 million, and it is payable immediately.
Which, I mean, that fundamentally alters the operational calculus for the whole voyage.
Yeah.
Especially because margins in maritime shipping are, well, they're often calculated down to the fraction of a cent per ton mile.
Right. So your natural instinct, and frankly the instinct of anyone just looking at a standard map, is to say, you know what, keep your straight. I'll just take the long way around.
Yeah, just find a detour.
But in this deep dive into our stack of notes on global energy infrastructure and maritime logistics, we're going to unpack exactly why that long way around is a complete myth.
It really is a geographical illusion.
It is. We are going to figure out why this single, very specific waterway basically holds the global circulatory system hostage.
And what's fascinating here is that this isn't just about ships, right? Roughly 20% of the world's daily oil supply pumps through this one single artery.
Exactly. And for you listening, even if you don't live anywhere near the Persian Gulf, even if your country doesn't buy a single drop of oil from there, a disruption in this strait will directly hit your wallet. So let's unpack this.
Yeah, let's get into it. Because the physical geography of the Persian Gulf creates this sort of trap that a lot of two-dimensional maps just fail to convey.
Right, because people assume the ocean is just wide open everywhere.
Exactly, but it's a semi-enclosed body of water. So trying to bypass the Strait of Hormuz is basically like trying to navigate out of a sprawling metropolis that literally only has a single two-lane bridge connecting it to the mainland.
Wow, one bridge.
Yeah, the water might look open, but the physical reality of maritime navigation paints a very, very different picture.
I love that analogy from the sources, the whole house with one door thing. So countries like Qatar, Kuwait, and Iraq, they're in that house.
Right. They have absolutely no alternate sea exit.
If they want to put a barrel of oil on a ship and send it to Europe or Asia, it physically has to go through Hormuz. But wait, I have to push back a little here. Don't giants like Saudi Arabia and the UAE have other coasts?
Well, yeah, they do. And they have engineered alternatives. Saudi Arabia has the east-west pipeline, which is called Petrolane, running straight to the Red Sea.
Okay.
And the UAE has the 80 cap pipeline pushing crude over the mountains to Fujairah, completely bypassing the strait. So you're right, they aren't entirely trapped.
So they have a back door.
They do have a back door.
Yeah.
But it's incredibly narrow and crowded. You have to remember, moving highly viscous fluids across hundreds of miles of desert terrain. I mean, that requires massive pumping stations. Immense pressure.
It's not just a simple hose.
Not at all. Petrolane has a maximum nameplate capacity of around 5 to 7 million barrels per day. The AD cop line to Fujairah handles roughly 1.5 million.
Okay, so combined, that's maybe 8 or 9 million barrels of bypass capacity, which sounds like a lot.
It does sound substantial, right? Until you factor in that the Strait of Hormuz processes upwards of 20 million barrels every single day.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that math does not work out at all.
The math simply does not close. Those pipelines are strategic redundancies for a fraction of their output. They are not total replacements. You just can't physically squeeze 20 million barrels of daily global demand through pipelines designed for less than half of that.
So the physical infrastructure to bypass it at scale just doesn't exist.
Exactly. It's not a choice between a short route and a long route. It's a choice between one narrow exit or no viable alternative at all.
Okay, that brings us back to the financial hurdle from that opening scenario, the $2 million toll.
Right, the hypothetical toll.
Yeah. If routing overland is physically impossible at scale, why wouldn't these massive multinational energy corporations just, eat the cost of charting new ocean routes to avoid the whole headache?
Well, we really have to contextualize that $2 million figure against the sheer scale of the VLCC.
A very large crude carrier.
Exactly, these mega ships. They have a draft, which is the depth of the ship below the waterline that can exceed 20 meters when they're fully loaded.
That's massive.
It is. And a single tanker holds about 2 million barrels. So let's say crude is at $70 a barrel. You are moving a floating asset worth $140 million.
Wait, 140 million, so a $2 million toll is?
It's only about 1 to 2% of the cargo's value.
Oh, wow. So it's painful, sure, but it's not catastrophic. It's pocket change.
Yeah, it's an annoying operating expense, but it's not a prohibitive barrier. And when you compare that fee to the actual economics of a maritime detour, the toll is by far the cheapest option.
Because the detour is an illusion, right?
Completely. Think about the alternative. Avoiding the region and taking the Cape of Good Hope route around Africa. That adds roughly 14 to 15 days to a standard voyage to Europe.
And building new pipelines across the desert takes years and billions of dollars anyway. Plus, those extra days at sea compound exponentially.
Oh, massively. You aren't just paying for the time. You are burning an additional 50 to 70 tons of bunker fuel every single day.
Wow.
Yeah, plus daily charter rates, demurrage fees, maintaining a crew for an extra 2 weeks.
And the insurance, right. The notes mentioned insurance is a huge factor.
The insurance premiums are the ultimate deciding factor. The maritime insurance industry, specifically the syndicates at Lloyd's of London, they calculate premiums based on time exposed to risk.
Makes sense.
So routing heavily laden, slow-moving vessels near areas historically prone to piracy, like near the Horn of Africa, it triggers staggering war risk premiums.
So what does this all mean? Avoiding the strait doesn't mean finding safety at all.
No, it just means trading one localized risk for a dozen more expensive ones.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting to me. Let's pivot to the global market.
Sure.
If it's this complicated, why can't a country like the US just say, you know what, we'll only buy oil from Canada or Brazil. We'll just ignore the Middle East completely.
That assumes crude oil is traded like a manufactured good. Like you could just trace and isolate the origin of your specific purchase.
But you can't?
Not really. Oil is a highly fungible global commodity. Think of the global energy market as this colossal, giant water tank.
Okay, a giant water tank.
Right. And the Strait of Hormuz is a massive, high-volume pipe feeding into that global tank. If that pipe gets choked off, the water level in the entire tank drops instantly.
So it doesn't matter which tap you're drinking from.
Exactly. This scarcity drives up the pressure or the price everywhere. If 20 million barrels suddenly vanish, Asian and European economies don't just power down, they aggressively bid on the supply coming out of the Americas and the North Sea.
So the global benchmark prices like Brent crude or West Texas Intermediate, they just shoot up for everyone.
Yep. Everyone pays the price.
Yeah. But wait, let me challenge that a bit. Price isn't a law of physics. What if a country just breaks the rules? Like India buying discounted oil directly from Russia.
Ah, the Urals crude arbitrage.
Yeah. They basically ignore the Brent benchmark and buy at a price Russia sets. Doesn't that prove there's a loophole?
Well, that does happen, absolutely. But it actually proves how the system self-corrects. Think of it like a sold-out concert.
Okay, I'm with you.
If one seller offers cheap tickets to a sold-out show, everyone rushes there, right?
Yeah, obviously.
So India rushes to buy that discounted Russian crude. But China does the exact same thing. They compete with India for that Russian oil, and that bidding war drives the price right back up.
Oh, I see. So the discount evaporates because of the demand.
Exactly. Plus, Russia only produces so much. They hover around 10 million barrels a day. They physically don't have the spare capacity to replace the 20 million barrels that flow through Hormuz.
The system really does self-correct. It's fascinating. But it's not just about moving liquid from point A to point B, is it? The oil itself is actually different.
Yes, the invisible friction. Most people completely miss this. The chemical composition of crude oil dictates the physical infrastructure required to process it.
So all crude isn't the same.
Not at all. When we talk about Middle Eastern crude, we're generally talking about heavy, sour grades. Heavy, meaning it has complex hydrocarbon chains, and sour, meaning high sulfur content.
Right, and contrast that with U.S. shale, which is light and sweet. So you can't just feed U.S. shale into an Asian refinery designed for Middle Eastern crude.
You really can't. It's like trying to run a diesel engine on high-octane unleaded gas. The chemistry of the machine rebels.
Wow.
Refineries are highly specialized, multi-billion-dollar chemical plants. A huge percentage of the refining capacity in Asia was engineered over decades specifically for that heavy, sour Middle Eastern crude.
So if you switch the crude types...
You reduce efficiency, cost millions in adjustments, or literally cause severe mechanical damage to the catalytic cracking unit.
That is wild. The chemistry literally binds the geography.
It does. And that physical lock is reinforced by this dense web of geopolitical and commercial commitments.
The invisible chains keeping the system locked in.
Right. like long-term contracts. You can't just break a multi-year supply agreement with Saudi Arabia without massive financial penalties.
And what about OPEC plus coordination?
Oh, that's a huge part of it. If you bypass one member, the group just adjusts their collective supply to influence the price anyway.
You can't outrun the cartel.
No. And then there's the logistics and sanctions aspect. Moving millions of barrels requires massive insurance frameworks.
The P&I clubs in London.
Right, exactly. The protection and indemnity clubs. Without that specific coverage, major ports won't even let a vessel dock. The liability of a spill is just too huge.
I see. But what about shadow fleets? I mean, aging tankers turning off their transponders, doing dark ship-to-ship transfers.
They exist, and they manage to move oil outside the traditional system. But it's incredibly slow and highly dangerous.
So it can't scale.
Exactly. You can hide a few million barrels in the shadows, sure. You cannot hide 20 million barrels a day. The infrastructure simply doesn't exist.
It really is a giant interconnected web. Pull one thread to try and save a buck, and 3 other threads tighten right around you.
Perfectly said.
So, to summarize this incredible reality, the Strait of Hormuz isn't just a shipping lane, it's a geographic anomaly that forces 20% of the world's energy through a single choke point.
Yeah.
And it's bound together by specialized refineries, massive megaships, and self-correcting global economics.
It's an unyielding system.
Yeah.
But it does leave us with a final, really provocative question to ponder.
Oh, what's that?
As the world slowly transitions away from fossil fuels and towards renewable energy, does the Strait of Hormuz finally lose its grip on the global economy? Or are we simply going to replace it with new, undiscovered geographic choke points that control the flow of lithium, cobalt, and the critical minerals of the future?
Wow. Trading one geographical trap for another, that is definitely something to chew on. Well, if you enjoyed this deep dive, please like, share, comment, and subscribe.
We are creating a comforting space away from everyday chaos, diving into the mechanics of how our world actually works.
We post daily shorts and frequent videos, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out.
Follow us on Insta and Facebook at @DeSilhouetteLores.
And check out our webpage, solores.github.io.
Contents by Benit Ghosh. All rights reserved. Copyright Benit Ghosh.
Remember, next time you fill up your car or flip a light switch, you are participating in a highly calibrated global machine that all squeezes through one incredibly narrow door. Thanks for listening.